teacups, what's brewing? I've just turned the camera on and realised that it's well crooked. I don't know if that's going to help or make it worse, never mind. So while the topic of today is Foodie's Texas Roadhouse mukbang, we have a few things to talk about. So guys, I don't cover Amberlynn. Yeah, I've done a couple of videos on her on channel because I had points where Chantal just got a little bit too much. But can we talk about the breakup, please? So I used to watch Amberlynn, and actually I began by watching Amberlynn, and then over time she just got a bit too insufferable for me. I don't know what it is about her attitude to her audience is way harder for me to deal with than Foodie's. I don't know, because generally I relate to Foodie more, but something about Amber and how Amber's attitude has progressed I find really difficult to deal with. So I haven't really been keeping up with like the wifey arc. Wasn't really a time where I was a regular viewer, but there is a lot of crossover between like Foodie and Amber's audience and some of the information. The worlds, they intersect. I actually was going to be an Amber and Foodie reaction channel when I started, but as I was starting was the time when Amber got a cancer diagnosis, and I was like, absolutely not. I'm not touching that with a barge pole. I was more interested in Foodie at that time anyway. I feel like my reactions to Amber pre the cancer stuff would have been quite negative because she just, something about it irritates me. But cancer is serious business, and I wasn't about to start a channel as she was beginning to face that. She needed space. However, when I tell you I ran to YouTube when I heard she had broken up with Faylene, is it? I ran, friends. This is the drama of old. Whenever she hits a new era, it's always interesting. I watched the videos when she was with Crystal, and I was around for the Destiny era. So I've been with her and Becky, of course. So I've been with her in previous eras. So the start of a new one is exciting. And yes, it will be a new one. The thing with Amber is she cannot function alone, which in and of itself is a reason to try. I think she would do much better to take a break and be alone for a while, because the talk she has where she's like, I don't know who I am. Well, that's something you can discover, but not if you're relying on everyone else and adapting to everybody else around you. I've got a feeling this is going to be an opportunity she misses, but the opportunity is here. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on Amber, but there's a couple of things about her video that I want to talk about. Number one, I do not feel, and again, all of this is speculation, yeah, I do not feel the breakup happened on the timeline she's telling us. Because when she's like, it was mutual, she said it was mutual about 3 times in the first minute, but then she's sobbing like she's my whole life. I don't know what to do now. She's, you know, I wanted to give her the world. It sounds like she was broken up with. That's just my instinct, but that's what I think happened. And that would also explain why she does not want to give the reasons for this. Because one part of my brain wants to say, well, you know, in terms of sympathy, she was presenting herself as being very upset during the video, but she did present a video when she didn't need to. There was no need to come online when she was that upset, and she chose to. So there's a certain amount of performance there. There was no need to tell her audience right now that that was going on. But she chose to, and I feel she chose to for specific reasons. I think number one, it didn't happen. She was saying July 4th, right as the fireworks were starting. I think that's for dramatic effect. I think they have either been broken up or on the way to a breakup for a little while, because I don't think the moving conversation would have started without that being a part of the discussion. I think the moving conversation is happening because they were already broken up. And I also think that Amber is choosing to do this online because she can say with reasonable confidence that Faylene won't. Because Faylene isn't Destiny, she isn't Becky, she wasn't on camera all the time, she wasn't an active character, she was always in the background. She was the person off stage that you shouted your line to. And so the chances of her turning on a camera and telling her side of the story, I think is quite low, which is really useful for Amberlynn because it means she doesn't have to explain anything she doesn't want to explain, and probably no one's going to call her on it. But I don't believe it was mutual, and I believe the reason she said it doesn't matter why we broke up is because it was something that doesn't reflect well on Amber. Either her series of terrible decisions regarding contacting Destiny and doing everything publicly, either the way she's spoken about Becky, the fact that she has recently abandoned a major health initiative that might have actually changed her life, that Faylene seemed involved with and supportive with. All of those things can really cause a person to think, hey, do I want to continue this relationship with someone who seems determined to pick the worst choices for herself? Hey, has this conversation with Destiny really shown me a side of her that I could envision happening to me? Can I look at what's being said here and how it's being performed here? And do I feel comfortable this being me one day? I think those are all things that Amber would not like to face. And so if any of them are part of the breakup, she wouldn't want to say it. However, on the off chance that she's this upset genuinely and there's no manipulation involved and all of this is just my speculation, I will be very interested to see what stories come out when the conversation turns, as it definitely will, because the moment her emotions get less real and raw, you guys fuck, she will want to justify, she will want to blame, she will want to paint herself in the best light possible, and she can do that without somebody who comes onto YouTube and talks. So I think we're going to hear a very different perspective on their relationship later on. Okay, so that's Amber, because it was all kicking off and I was like, oh, it's been a while, but I might start tuning in again. So let's get to Foodie. Now, I purposely gave Foodie a little bit because I wanted to see kind of a group of her content because it's going about as well as I expected it to go. But more to the point, I need to look at her timeline because we've spoken many times about how she likes to pull shenanigans with what she's presenting. And she is definitely engineering her vlogs right now to look a certain way. To the point where I actually went to her videos today and I looked at the dates and I looked at the date of her live and what she ate, and I had to pull together my own kind of timeline because I didn't understand how this timing was slotting together. And I think she's doing this on purpose. I think this is another example of the kind of thing she did with her doctor's notes, where she put them out of order to make them hard to follow. Now, previously she had said, I'm filming one day and I'm uploading the next. I am going to use upload dates for this. I think she's playing a bit fast and loose with that because some of these things I think she uploaded as soon as she had recorded and edited them. And some of these things I think she did wait till the next day. And some of these things I think she's been out of footage, she's used old footage and she's clipped it together to make herself look better. But let's look at the timeline. I'm actually going to put it on screen because I had to write it out to follow it. All of the dates that I'm using are upload dates. But remember, if she uploads on the 5th, it means she recorded on the 4th, according to her. So on the 5th of July, she had the taco mukbang. So that supposedly was eaten on the 4th. Now, it's my belief the paneer curry and rice shown in the vlog on the 7th was also eaten on this day, and I'll show you why. On the 5th of July, she also had the High Beezers live. She uploaded the taco mukbang, waited a few hours, went live. At the beginning of that live, she is eating beef and rice because she tells Julia, no, you can't have beef and rice. But she mentions that she had had leftover paneer and curry for breakfast, which dates the paneer making to the 4th. Because if she was going to have leftovers, it was probably from the previous day, and then she ate more on that day, which is the same day as the Taco Bell, and then she ate the remainder for breakfast. And she says at the end of the live, even though it doesn't seem to have been that long since her previous food, and because she was eating at the beginning of the live, she says at the end she's still hungry, she wants a snack, and she wants a chicken royale, you know, that burger she likes. Again on the 5th of July, we have another live, which is her gaming on Solar's channel, and she's eating chips and snacks during that. So the lives we can definitely date to the 5th. The taco mukbang is either the 4th or the 5th. And the paneers don't seem to be accounted for in any of these, despite the fact that she's eaten them at least twice. Now we go on to the 6th. The 6th is the best sushi mukbang. We don't really have any other information about that day, but it's my belief, just based on her prior behavior and based on how I know I go once I start, I think she's just been eating between the 5th and the 6th. I think the 6th was a very poor day's eating for her, and she doesn't want to admit that. I think she has been eating the diet boxes, but I think she's also been eating everything else she can get her hands on, which is why we don't really have much around this. Also on the 6th of July, we have the What I Eat in a Day Rejecting Diet Culture, and this vlog is just a complete lie. All of those clips are not from then, which is why I think the sushi mukbang was indicative of just her having a bad old time. And she did say during the Texas Roadhouse mukbang later, she needs to be better about filming. She hasn't been very good the last couple of days, but she's got some stuff, and we might get a second video later today. So we don't know now in terms of the sushi, if it was eaten on the 5th or if it was eaten on the 6th, especially because she tends to go to bed in the wee hours of the morning, so it could technically have been the 6th, but really at the end of the day of the 5th, we don't know. But What I Eat in a Day Rejecting Diet Culture, supposedly, because it was a full day of eating, would have been the previous day, which would have been the day of the sushi mukbang. And she had to edit this and upload it. Now, it was uploaded late enough that it might still have been the same day and might not have been previous, we don't know. It does not mention the sushi. So either it was a different day or she didn't include it with all her other stuff because I guess she doesn't want to count it in her brain. But the fact that she doesn't mention the sushi means, look, it might be the same day that she's recorded it. She shows a burger meal kit, which looks absolutely fine, and a bag of Pufak corn snacks. But then she shows the paneer that she was making and eating on the 4th, and she presents her paneer curry rice bowl, as a meal that she's eating in this video, when actually we know that that was made and eaten on the 4th, days ago. And that the remains, and that the leftovers were eaten at some point between the 4th and the 5th, probably morning of the 5th. She then shows a picture of the meatballs and rice, which she was eating at the very beginning of the live on the 5th, and again presents it as if it's part of this day's meal. Now, whether she ate the sushi on that day, like in the early hours of this day or not, there is no way, if all of the food except for the burger that she's showing was actually eaten on different days, there's no way the sushi is the only thing she ate that day. And it might have been that she ate the sushi the previous day, we don't know. But she has got a gap there that she's admitted she hasn't been good at vlogging, that I don't think went well for her. I think she's just been eating and eating and eating, and now she's trying to hide it through old clips. Then we get on to the 7th, which this was uploaded about 2 a.m, something like that. Remember, my time zone is an hour later than Chantal's, so I'm a little bit closer to her time zone than, say, the American audience. So it was uploaded in the early hours of today, which means she's probably been awake all day, so it was probably an evening meal rather than counting towards today's food. Now, obviously, she films with the wall behind her, so it's hard to tell the time of day, but that's what I think. She's purposefully leaving all the timeline to be a mess. But very long story short, none of her timeline makes sense, and she's pulling shenanigans. So then we get the Texas Roadhouse mukbang that was eaten either last night or early this morning, because she has to edit and make the thumbnail and what have you. She starts by saying she's craving a full meal. She moves on quite quickly, but I think that was quite telling. I think she is chasing the feeling of being overly full, and that's why she wants a big meal. Because there's been a lot of talk about, just being satisfied, not letting myself get hungry. But she doesn't count, even though she's had very big meals, she doesn't count them as just stuffing herself. Even after she finished the sushi, she was like, it looks like a lot of food, it is a lot of food, but it doesn't feel like a lot of food. She wants to feel overly full because that's the only way she knows to be satisfied. So she ordered a steak, mashed potato with brown gravy, salad, and bread rolls with cinnamon butter. She said she's going to try and savor and enjoy her food because it's all about mindfulness. For the sake of the calorie count, I did count the steak as an 11 ounce. Don't know if that's correct, but I'm assuming. It's not the biggest, but it's the second biggest, which I felt like would be the compromise she would make. I'll put the calories up on screen, but basically this supplemental meal clocked in at around 2,300 calories. Now, the amount of butter, which we'll talk about in a minute, I've put it as 50 grams, which might be a little bit generous here, to be honest. I think she probably had more, but we can say 2,300. The numbers are from the Texas Roadhouse UAE site. I'm also guessing her dressing was ranch. There might be a 10 or 20 calorie difference if it was a different dressing, but not a big deal. She struggles to cut her steak with a plastic knife. Julia is all up in there trying to get the food, which is about as great as it usually is. The steak is too bloody for her liking. She goes and cooks it longer in the kitchen. She puts it into the air fryer, comes back with a massive chunk of butter on her plate, like enormous. She then puts part of that butter onto her steak, and she says that tablespoon of butter, it was not a tablespoon, will prevent a binge. It was way more than a tablespoon, but she is mixing up any food plan she can think of to justify and serve what she wants at the particular time. If she were doing low carb, there would be an emphasis on fats in order to keep you feeling satisfied because you don't have the carbohydrates to do that. However, she's also putting a handful of Doritos on her salad and eating mashed potato. There is going to be butter already having been added to that steak. There's butter, she mentions the grease on the bread. Like, there's going to be some kind of butter or dairy in the mashed potato. She doesn't need the extra fat, but in the moment she wanted it, she justified it by saying, well, okay, fat can make you feel more satisfied, so it can prevent a binge. And then she's like, oh, but so can the Doritos, because having a little of what you want helps to prevent binging. And it's not that any of these can't be true in isolation. It's that cherry picking multiple of them just equals, well, I can eat whatever I want and I'm supposed to because I'm ill and this is how I fix my illness. When actually a lot of the things don't connect. If you're going to say I'm going to have really high fat, then it's really dangerous, particularly at her weight, if you're not doing the corresponding reduction of carbs. If you're going to say, okay, no, I'm going to have a little bit of everything, then one, maybe 2,300 calories isn't a good choice, and two, no need to add the extra butter. You can be fully satisfied with the meal you have. But she just ends up remembering whatever it is she's read on 1,000 diet websites in the moment to justify the thing. She says she didn't binge yesterday either, and my God, what is time? We've looked at the vlogs, we've looked at the dates, we've looked at the timeline. You cannot believe anything that comes out of her mouth because she is being purposefully evasive with her timings. This is where she said she needs to get better at vlogging, but she hasn't felt like it, which is why I think we got the old clips on the previous video. She says she has some videos ready to go, no doubt spreading out whatever food she's been eating over the last day or two to look better than it is, so she can control and confuse the timeline a little more. Because she can't just get rid of the footage, that's her video. So she has to somehow justify it being there. She's got good news for us. She found a place online that she can order clothing, which has, it seems, an extended size range, which is easier for her right now. Remember, she did say when they were out, was it when they were out walking? Maybe? Or maybe they had gone shopping for something and she was like, I can't do stores right now. She's struggling with them. The clothes will arrive in the next couple of days and we will see the haul. I'm guessing if it was online, it was probably Max. Max are a good affordable store. You can get a good range of stuff there because generally there are so many like big brands here. Sometimes it's hard to get cheaper clothes, but they're a good, reasonably priced store. They do have an extended size section and they have a better online presence than a lot of the other stores here. So I was thinking that would be the easiest option for her, but she thinks it's an American franchise, so I'm not sure what store she means. When she showed her phone, sorry, I feel like a right creeper saying this. When she showed her phone before, I only know this because I was watching Poppy's live and he happened to zoom in to her phone and he was like, what are these symbols? One of the symbols she had looked like a Target symbol. And it's because there's a store here called Centerpoint. And Centerpoint also has clothes. I'm not sure if they have extended sizes or not. They might do. They're actually the same umbrella company that Max is in. There's Max, Centerpoint, and I think it's Home Center, which is a home goods store. And they're all owned by the same umbrella company. And they all run under the Shukran card, which is the like loyalty thank you card. And if she had that notification on her phone, that might be the store she means. But I could be wrong. If it's an American franchise, I'd be interested to see who would deliver to Kuwait for her. She has a conversation with us where she talks about being more frugal. I withhold my laughter as she eats her daily takeout that cost her over $40 Canadian. She says it doesn't make sense to waste money as she throws the free peanuts she was given at the cat. Like, yeah, no wastage here. She said something a little bit, I didn't like this at all. She says that Salah helps her, because, you know, he's supportive, she puts things in her cart and then he looks over them and is like, oh, look, this one's cheaper, this one's on sale. That sounds really invasive. Here, let me come and approve what you're buying. I didn't like that at all. Something about that was a bit of a red flag. But I would say that, again, because of how the banking is set up and because isn't her card like a credit union or something in Canada? I don't think she can use her cards in Kuwait. I could be wrong. So he is going to have to pay for these. His card needs to be in these sites. And I don't think she's done a Sephora order since she's been in Kuwait. So if she is, it would be a new order. It wouldn't have his details already in. So he may well have seen the shopping cart because he was going to pay for her on his card. Now, whether that money has been transferred from Foodie's account in Canada to his because she knows how to do a money transfer, well, that's a different conversation. But the point is, he would have to go through her stuff to get to the checkout. And maybe that's why, but I didn't like this idea at all. And she is framing it as support, and it is definitely sensible to be like, do you need the most expensive one instantly? Is there a different, if you're not attached to a brand, is there a different one you can try? But it sounds a little bit like Salah is putting his foot down a bit more in some ways, just to prevent her from hemorrhaging money. Because at this point, I'm guessing he's figured out there's no stopping the food. Like, that is a cost you will have to embrace because that's not going to stop. He tried with the diet meals. It didn't work. She's ordering takeout again. Because remember, this is his first cycle he's been through with her. But perhaps because the food is really a non-negotiable, he's looking at other areas where they can be more frugal and save money in different parts of their lives. And this comes up, she's talking about how they're going to the cinema. The cinema is not badly priced here. It's not extortionate. But she wanted to go VIP. She wanted to go VIP seats, which are just, you know, like the luxury seats, straight away so they could see it and not have to wait. And he's like, well, we'll go on, I guess Tuesday isn't a busy day. We'll go on Tuesday and then it'll be cheaper. And so she had to wait. She kind of that instant gratification. And he should be super careful with that. It makes sense, but she doesn't have a high tolerance for delayed gratification at all. And I think that's going to get tired real quick. And it will be interesting to see when they clash with that. Because ultimately, all of that stuff is out of her control. If Salah does actually say no, she can't do anything about it. And then things start getting spicy online. She mentions her back is hurting a lot today, so I guess no exercise. She knows the only way to deal with it is by losing weight, which again, for all she is vocalizing, no, it's only binge prevention, that's the only reason, her aim still seems to be to lose weight. She's just going about it terribly. Not that she'd admit that. Chantal has a belief that because there is worse out there, she's not so bad. And she's said that before when you talk about her behavior and the reception she gets online. She has that same belief when it comes to food. Some people in the comments were like, you're not counting this as a binge? And she's like, no, it's a big meal. And I've had people in my comments say, well, binges are usually done in secret. And my answer to that is, I don't think we count as people to Foodie. I think there is too much of a barrier between her and the camera. She doesn't have to look you in the face when she binges. So the shame reflex doesn't kick in when she's eating online, because it's also part of her job and it's also just a meal, and she's got so many justifications, and she doesn't actually have to face you, the audience, in a real sense. But when you look at older vlogs of hers, that out of context one that I mentioned a few a few reacts back, when she was in the car talking about how she'd had to describe to the doctor about what a binge is for her. She said she looks visibly ashamed, she's embarrassed. She says that she was ashamed and embarrassed, and she felt icky, which is the only word she ever uses for real feelings when they come to her. But you could see she was really visibly uncomfortable with it. So I think she does feel shame when it comes to binges. I feel she does feel embarrassment when it comes to binges, but I don't think she needs to face those feelings, because ultimately we aren't real. But she'd said that she hides things from Salah. If Salah was in the room watching her going, "What are you doing?" she would eat less. But no, she eats secretly. She'll go and eat 4 packets of Indomie while he's sleeping. But her eating is definitely compulsive, and we can play games with the terminology here, but she cannot control, chooses not to, cannot control. She is compulsively ordering fast food. She doesn't feel that she can get through the day without it. So for me, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. If you are doing something and you're not in control of it, that is an issue you need to address. But her answer for addressing it is doing it more, because you shouldn't deny yourself. You cannot solve the problem with the problem. Okay, so that's where we are with that. We'll see what else she puts up today, and I'll be watching the Amberlynn stuff to see how the conversation progresses in terms of a look into their relationship. Because I got a feeling it's going to be a little bit different than the way she was presenting it a month or 2 ago. All right, everybody, I am going to leave you there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.